Hi everybody, Lorina Quigley here, your mystical ex-Mormon, psychic medium, and healer and spiritual guide. I'm doing another video today. Did I say that already? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to do a little video today. This one's going to be about stories, just a couple of fun stories about what can happen in a reading or an energy healing, because it doesn't necessarily need to be an energy healing. It can be in a reading that healing can happen. And certainly when you give mediumship messages or have a mediumship reading, that can bring a lot of healing, because that brings in healing for the heart for people that we've lost. So but healings can come in a lot of different ways. It can come through information. It can come through actual, you're just receiving information and an energetic shift can take place. And you can feel it happening as you're getting the reading. I mean, something can literally come in and go, and something's gone. I mean, I've seen that more than once, quite a few times actually. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an energy healing. It can be also a reading where things shift and happen. Anyway, so just saying, yeah. And again, with mediumship, it can be incredibly healing when you have readings. So today, a few of the stories that I want to share, and some of these are energy healing, some of them are readings, but I was doing an energy healing on someone, and this was over the phone. And it wasn't even with the person. I mean, okay, I'm going to back up just a little. So I was asked to do an energy healing on somebody. This is a woman who had lost her husband in a very tragic accident, a motorcycle accident that was actually on the news. It was that bad. It was on the news. So she lives somewhere in the Phoenix area. Her mother had contacted me, not the woman herself. And she really needed some healing. And this is probably about 7 years after the accident had happened. And I think the guy, her husband, died on Thanksgiving Day or the night before Thanksgiving. She begged him not to go out, and he did anyway for whatever reason. So it was just sad and tragic. And she needed healing because she had many things going on with her, even physically, at that time. Like she was just, life was just really hard, and she's having a rough time getting on with her life after that tragic accident. Anyway, so what happened was her mother called me. We arranged a time, and it was in the evening. A lot of times I like to do this kind of work at night. It's just quieter. It's a quieter time. So I like to do those things at night. Not always. So it was done remotely. But I was not even on the phone with this woman. So we set up a time. And I talked to her right before we started. The mother, not the woman. This woman's mother. I said, okay, I'm going to start right now. And the woman was laying in bed in a really quiet place so that she could receive this healing. So, and I had already meditated and was in a really tuned in space where I called in my guides and teachers and helpers to help me, the angelic realm, all my helpers, to assist with this healing for this woman. And I knew some of the story. I didn't know all of it. Anyway, so I am really tuned in, and I am sitting in a dark room, and what I see is I have her name, and I'm tuning in, and within the first, I think 5 minutes or so, I literally see this fragment of her soul come in, and it looked very ghostly, come in. So it was a large fragment come in to the room where she was, and then slip into her body. So a big part of her soul returned to her body, a big chunk. And what happened, I think, that was so traumatic for her that a big part of her just got up and left. Just left. It was that painful. And that can happen like through trauma, things like that, that we lose pieces of ourselves. So she got, within the first 5 minutes, a big piece of her soul went back into her body. So I knew, and I think I probably worked on her for about maybe 45 minutes after that. I'm not sure. Can't remember the full time. It was supposed to be about an hour healing. But I knew within the first 5 minutes after I saw that happen, it's like, okay, this is a serious healing that just happened. So I did some other things, definitely. Grounded the energy, pulled some more stuff out. But I knew that a healing had happened. Now, after I finished that healing, which I was not present for again, I wasn't even on the phone. I called her mother and I said, this is what I saw happen. And I told her everything I saw. Of course, she started crying. I did hear back from her, the mother, not the daughter, because I never did hear from the daughter, because she just, I think she's just trying to heal. She didn't want to just help heal me. I don't want to have to converse or do anything. Just, I need help. My mom's setting it up. Let's do this, and which is fine. That's what she wanted. Anyway, that was significant, and I have never seen such a big chunk of somebody's spirit go back into their body. Usually when you see fragments going back into people's bodies, soul fragments, it's usually smaller than that. But this was big, and it was a really traumatic event for her. Anyway, so that was pretty amazing to witness and see. Also, I was doing an energy healing on somebody once. It was a guy. And I was looking at the line, like the connection. So we have a connection, like a soul connection, a spirit connection. This is like, and it's like a rod of light. It's like a tube. And it goes up to wherever our higher self is. It's all the way up there, and we're connected to it. And this goes into the different dimensions too, and what you're connected with. And what I saw was, and I don't remember like what it was as far as what dimension or whatever, but I'm like, oh, there's a spot right up here, and it was about 2 feet above his head, where there was almost like a tourniquet right there in that tube of light that connects him to higher self or source even. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's undo that, because if you're having a hard time connecting with your higher self, with source, or getting higher information, well, that's why. Well, it's one of the reasons. So we undid that. And, this is information that's coming in that I'm receiving as I'm doing this. And that could have been, that didn't need to be in person. And it could have just been a reading too, where that was unblocked. But that was pretty cool. And he did energy healing. So it's interesting. He was also an energy healer. So that was an interesting experience. And these are just some of the things that you see when you do this kind of work. I was also doing an Akashic record reading on somebody, and this was like a really short, it was at a fundraising thing. For the Spiritualist Church, I used to do a lot of volunteer work there. That day I was doing Akashic record readings. And so these are supposed to be like 10, 15-minute readings. This woman sat down in front of me. She really wanted to get a healing, but she just said, someone said, go to Lorina. She didn't know I wasn't doing healing that day. Someone said, go to Lorina. So she came in and sat in front of me. And I'm supposed to be doing a Akashic record reading. She started telling me that she had had COVID and that she couldn't smell since then. Her sense of taste and smell had completely disappeared. And I can't even remember what happened in the reading, because within like about 2 minutes of her telling me this energy came in. I mean, you could just feel this, like, this energy came in through me and around us. And I literally said, hold on, because healing is happening right now. And you could feel this energy swirling around us, but mostly her. And it took maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes at the most. And it left. And then we continue, and I'm like, okay, we're done with that anyway, with the healing that needed to happen. And she, what I heard, so we went on with the reading, which I don't even remember the reading at all, but I remember that part. And what I heard like 24 hours later, because we were probably, a bunch of us were at church the next day, at the spiritualist church, she, I heard, because a friend sent her in, that within 24 hours, her sense of smell and taste had come back from when she had COVID. Within that 24-hour period, after that reading, her sense of smell and taste came back. And that is what she wanted. So that was really nice to hear. Anyway, I love stories like that. That's awesome. Anyway, yeah. And one other story, I just wrote a few things down. So that's why I'm looking down, because I wanted to remember these. Also, a really, really interesting, again, this was an energy healing. And I was walking, this woman was on a massage table, and I was walking around her. She was young, maybe 24 or something, beautiful young woman. I'm walking around her and I'm like, something's up. There's something really weird going on here. So I'm walking around her. I'm trying to figure out what it is, because it's unusual. And I finally said to her, you know, this energy that is around you, it feels like poison. It feels like there's toxic energy or poison energy, and it's all around you. It's like kind of in your body, but it feels like it's not you, and I can't quite figure out what it is, but it's there. And she goes, oh, that's my mother. And the minute she said, oh, that's my mother, this energy rose up out of her. It was almost like raising straight up from her body. Like this misty white energy rose up from her body, came up, I don't know, about a foot or so, maybe a little less than that. And it was in the shape of a human. and then it went poof, and it completely disappeared. She felt that. She knew that something had just lifted up from her body and left. So that was just another really interesting experience. And what that's about is, so it wasn't that she needed to have an energy healing. That was more about recognizing what is there. So somebody, me, being in that space of being able to see it and say it, recognize it, gave it enough space for that energy to lift off of her and go. It was amazing. Anyway, so that toxic energy went away, and it was coming from her mother. Now, sometimes when we have relationships like that, that doesn't mean that it doesn't come back, because we might go back to the exact same relationship that we have with that person that helped create the energy. So there's a consciousness healing that needs to take place around recognition, boundaries, and not allowing particular types of energy to be in our field. And sometimes that's really hard to do. I mean, it's really hard. But anyway, that would be the next step. Yeah. Anyway, really interesting experience. So yeah, and I tell people, if you live with people that are difficult or have a lower vibration than you do, it is really hard to stay out of that energy, because energy affects energy. So, and I don't know if they were living together, or if she just had a mother that was just in her face all the time trying to take control of her life. That's very possible. Anyway, just an interesting experience. So, yeah. So it's really good to be around people who are really positive and have good energy, high frequency. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. Yeah. What is it? There's something called the law of proximity. So if you're around a lot of people who are really high vibe people, it's just easier for you to be in that space. So try to live that way. All right. So I was doing it again, another energy healing on somebody who is also a clairvoyant, very psychic woman. I met her at a friend's class. Anyway, she's on my table. I'm walking around her. Now what I see, I start seeing past lives. I see past lives. I have seen past lives since, I don't know, probably since I was 10 years old, when I started seeing my own past life. And then when I got older, as I got older, like in my early 20s, I saw more and more past life stuff. Not so much, not as much when I was younger, but I didn't even really have a name for it. I just knew that's you in another lifetime. And I really kept it to myself until I got a little older because, you know, would not have helped me at all. I would have gotten sent off to an exorcist or something to get rid of those spirits, which because that did not, well, my family, if you believed in reincarnation, that was of the devil. That was, I heard my mom say that quite a bit. So that's of the devil. She didn't say it quite like that. She was deaf, so her voice was funny. Anyway, but that was one of her sayings. That's of the devil. Anyway, so I'm working on this woman. I'm walking around her, and I see in a past life that she was a seer, as in a S-E-E-R, a seer and clairvoyant. And she worked for the king, or whatever, I can't remember, king, emperor, somebody in a really high position of power and authority, and male. She gave the wrong prediction, which was very bad and destructive for the king and his troops and this sort of thing. Anyway, and because she gave that wrong piece of information, and hey, we get things wrong. So it happens. Nobody is 100%, not that I know of. She was killed because she gave the wrong information. You know, it's one of the hazards of being a seer in the past. Not so much now, which is nice. Anyway, so what happened was, as I'm seeing this, and I'm telling her what I'm seeing as she is on my table, and this could have been an Akashic record reading. The same thing would have happened. I'm just saying. Anyway, I see beings come in. So now I don't know if those were her guides or my guides, because this was a while ago, but there was like 3 beings who came into the room, and they look like beings. They're not, they don't look ghostly like what you might see in a movie. No, they look like beings with robes, and they were male. Anyway, they walk up to her, to her head area. They walk up behind her. They pull this big shard that looked kind of like a crystal out of her head. It was about that big. Pull it out of her third eye. And then we were done. And that was like, okay, and I'm telling her what I'm seeing. Anyway, I am sure that her abilities improved after that. And she was quite psychic, very clairvoyant. Anyway, that was pretty cool. Another story. And if that would have been a straight up Akashic record reading, I am quite sure the same thing would have happened. Guides show up and go, oh, we need to remove that. Excuse me while we do that. Anyway, just pretty cool stuff. And I think those are, do I have any other stories to tell? Oh yeah, just a really quick, in class last week. And so this is really recent. So this is a class that I'm teaching. 2 things happened. So we were doing, the first one, we did a meditation. It's a guided meditation. 3 beings walked in the room while I was doing this guided meditation, and the students were sitting around in a circle, darkened room. And after I see these 3 beings come in, and I believe they were angelic beings because I discussed it with somebody afterwards, and I think they were definitely angelic beings. I said, okay, 3 beings just walked into the room, very high beings. They were male. They came in from the right. I'm left-handed, so I'm always getting my left and right confused. They came in from the right, kind of from back here towards the door. They came in and they were standing over here. They were male. They were tall. They were wearing all white. So I told everyone in the room, I said, okay, 3 beings just walked into the room. So because this just happened and the frequency of the room just went up, I want you all to call in your guides, your teachers, the angelics, your higher self. Call in all these beings because we have visitors. And I want you to tune in and feel in the room the energy shift as this was happening, because that is going to shift the energy in the room. And so just tune in and feel that. And then we did sort of it's a type of transfiguration exercise that we did after that. And one person was sitting, and so we're all watching this one person. And she has a candle behind her, and it's a darkened room again. And we're just watching her. And she said while she was sitting there, we call it the hot seat. I call it the hot seat because stuff just happens when you do this. She said that her eyes were fluttering really, really badly as she was doing like this kind of thing. And she couldn't stop it. And she said also at the same time that she was seeing all these past lives, like boom, 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 boom. And she felt like she was being healed as she was sitting there. Now, we weren't trying to do any healing. This was just happening. Anyway, so I did talk to her later, and she said that after that class, she felt a lot lighter. So something really shifted for her as this was happening. And then somebody else in the classroom, as she was in the hot seat, and we're all watching, and I said to her, I said, do you have problems breathing? Because it feels like there's a heaviness on your chest and it feels very compressed and it's hard for you to breathe sometimes. And she said, yes. Okay, so what happened after that is she's like, oh my God, it's lifting off of me. That energy is lifting off of me. And that goes back to sometimes, and this is what I said to her too. I said, sometimes just recognizing something and being in that space where healing can happen, and then recognizing an energy that is in your field, just recognizing it and saying it out loud. There's something about saying it out loud somehow gives space for the energy to leave. And that is what happened. So the energy just started leaving, lifting off of her. So she had kind of a mini healing. And this was like, and she was sitting there maybe for 10 minutes or something. And that took place within just a couple of minutes of her sitting up there in the room. So I guess the moral of the story, you never know when healing is going to happen, to be in the space for that. And sometimes, and that also sometimes, just hearing things that is happening in your energetic field gives space for that. It's like a recognition happening, and it gives space for that energy to leave so that you are lighter, clearer, just feel better. Anyway, that's it. So a couple of cool stories. Anyway, that's it for now. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.